All right, let's just jump right in. We throw the word strategy around all the time in our organizations, right? But what if I told you that most of what we're calling strategy, well, it isn't strategy at all? Today, we're going to break down this really powerful idea that most companies are actually just performing, putting on this show of confidence instead of doing the really hard work of actual strategy. And this quote from the strategist Richard Rumelt, wow, it just hits you right between the eyes. It's a huge claim. He's not saying our strategies are just a little bit off. He's saying that in most cases, they're not even there. We've replaced them with something else.
And that's something else. Well, you can call it performance theater or confidence theater. This is when leaders roll out these big, glossy documents filled with super ambitious, optimistic language. You know the ones. They feel strategic, they sound so impressive, but they are very, very carefully designed to avoid making any hard choices.
So why on earth would leaders do this? Honestly, it's pretty simple. Real strategy is risky. It means you might actually be wrong. It creates winners and, well, losers within the company. It forces you to limit your options and puts all your big ideas under a microscope. It's just so much easier and, frankly, a lot safer for your career to use language that sounds strong but commits to absolutely nothing.
Okay, so to get our heads around what good strategy really is, first we have to clear the decks. We need to completely demolish some of the most common fakes out there, the things that we all mistake for strategy. Now, take a look at this. Doesn't that column on the left look incredibly familiar? We've all seen this stuff passed off as strategy. You've got your vision statements, your big financial targets, your catchy slogans. Those are not strategy. Real strategy is something very different. It's a coherent, intelligent response to a specific, important challenge. It's not just ambition, it's a real plan of attack.
And this, right here, this is the absolute heart of the matter. It's the litmus test. If you're not saying no to something so you can say a powerful yes to others, you just don't have a strategy. Real strategy forces you to choose. It forces you to put your limited resources in one place instead of another. No trade-offs, no strategy. Period. All right, so now that we've cleared up what strategy isn't, how do we actually spot the fake stuff out in the wild? Well, luckily for us, there's a practical toolkit. Let's break down the 4 clear warning signs, the absolute hallmarks of bad strategy.
And here they are: fluff, failure to face the challenge, mistaking goals for strategy, and bad strategic objectives. Now I know, they might sound a bit academic at first, but trust me, once you learn to see them, you will start seeing them everywhere. Let's dig into what each one of these really looks like.
So first up is fluff. This is all that jargon that sounds so impressive but means absolutely nothing. It's basically a word salad of buzzwords. Leveraging our synergies for customer-centric excellence. Sounds important, right? But it's just a stand-in for actual hard thinking. Fluff is there for one reason: to protect leaders from being held accountable for anything concrete.
Now, if fluff is a problem on the surface, this second hallmark goes way deeper. It's the failure to actually name the problem. Bad strategy completely avoids a real diagnosis. It gives you a feel-good aspiration, like, we've got to increase customer satisfaction, instead of a brutally honest assessment like, we are losing market share because our competitors' costs are just way lower than ours. You see the difference? One is a wish, the other is a place to start.
And that leads us straight into what is probably the most common mistake of them all: confusing a goal with a strategy. We see a target, something like increase revenue by 20%, and we slap the label strategy on it. But that's not it. That's the what. A strategy is the how. It's the coherent logic, the plan that explains how you can realistically hit that goal, given all your constraints. A goal without that, it's just a wish.
And finally, when you don't have a real diagnosis or a coherent how, you end up with our 4th hallmark: bad strategic objectives. This is what I call the laundry list. It's when you see this long list of priorities. We need to improve quality, cut costs, and grow revenue all at the same time. Look, that's not ambition, it's evasion. It's a way to avoid the tough work of actually choosing. If everything is a priority, then really nothing is. Okay, we have spent a lot of time tearing down what bad strategy looks like. So now, for the good stuff. Let's actually build up the simple, powerful structure that is at the core of every single effective strategy. So a good strategy always has what Rumelt calls a kernel. Think of it like a core. And it has these 3 essential parts: a diagnosis, a guiding policy, and a set of coherent actions. If you don't have all 3 of these working together, you don't have a strategy. You've just got, well, pieces. The first part, diagnosis, is all about getting crystal clear.
It cuts through all the noise and complexity of the real world and says, okay, this is the most critical thing happening right now. This is the problem we have to solve. It's all about figuring out what's really going on before you even think about what to do next.
So, once you have your diagnosis, you need a guiding policy. Now, this is not a detailed step-by-step plan. It's the overall approach, the big idea for how you're going to tackle the challenge. Think of it like guardrails on a highway. It channels all your energy in a specific direction. It says, we're going to compete on this, but we're not going to compete on that. It defines the whole logic of your response.
And finally, that guiding policy has to be brought to life with coherent actions. And the key word here is coherent. These actions can't just be a random to-do list. They have to be coordinated. They have to be designed to work together, to build on each other, creating a kind of momentum and leverage that a bunch of separate actions could never, ever achieve.
So, what you've just learned isn't just a framework. It's basically a finely tuned bullshit detector for the business world. And to use it, you have to accept a very uncomfortable truth about what good strategy actually feels like.
This right here is the central idea, and it's so important. Bad strategy feels good. It's full of big ambitions and sunny optimism. Good strategy, on the other hand, it's often really uncomfortable. It's about choices, constraints, and the cold, hard reality of your situation.
So why is it so uncomfortable? Well, because it forces you to do all the things that leaders are often paid to avoid. It names the real, sometimes pretty ugly problem. It makes you accept your limitations. It commits precious resources to one path and not another. And maybe the most terrifying thing of all, it makes specific bets that could actually turn out to be wrong. And this is why that confidence theater is so popular.
So, here's the bottom line. From now on, whenever you're in a strategy meeting or you're reading a strategic plan, I want you to look for these things. If you can't find a clear diagnosis of the challenge, if you don't see any evidence of real trade-offs being made, and if there's no clear theory for why these actions are supposed to work, then you know, it's not strategy, it's a performance.
And that leaves us with one last question, one for you to take back to your own world. The next time you look at the strategy for your team or your whole company, ask yourself this: is it making a real, difficult choice about where to focus and what to give up? Or is it just a beautifully presented piece of confidence theater? The answer might really surprise you.